Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki Om Agyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vachanam pangam langyate girim yat kripatamam vande Shri Guru Deenataranam Paramanandam Madhavam. So Hare Krishna, once again, we'll resume our discussion from third canto, chapter 22. And we were in the part where Kardam Muni was offered or is being offered Devahuti for his prospective bride, and we see Kardam Muni's reaction to it. So the chapter began with Swayambhavu Manu glorifying Kardam Muni, then Swayambhavu Manu speaking about the reason that he has come to the ashram, which is to offer his daughter. And after that, he speaks eloquently about the qualities of his daughter and why she would be a good match for Kardam Muni. And then he makes this point also that he's aware that Kardam Muni is looking to get married, and he's aware of all the good qualities of Kardam Muni and the fact that Devahuti also is comparable in those qualities. Therefore, she would be a suitable wife for him. And in his mood of Kshatriya diplomacy, he also makes this point that if a person has been given a gift that he wants, then it would be foolish for him to reject, because that want will still stay, and inevitably that person will then go somewhere else asking, or rather begging, for that gift. And at that time, as Providence would have it, the person would treat him in a derogatory way. So in such situations, the person loses his fame, his good qualities. So he's making a point both ways, that why is it suitable for Kardam Muni to accept Devahuti, and also why is it unsuitable for him to not accept Devahuti. So this is the nature of Kshatriya diplomacy, that they present things both ways. That if you do this, it's good for you. If you don't do it, it's bad for you. So there is a dual conviction that is conveyed. So we did till verse 14, and we'll resume from verse 15. So this is Kardam Muni now responding to the statements of Swayambhavu Manu. Rishirvacha Bhadam vodu kamoham apratacha tvatatmaja avyaranarupasta adyo vaivahiko vidihi. The great sage replied, "Certainly, I have a desire to marry, and your daughter has not yet married or given her word to anyone. Therefore, our marriage according to the Vedic system can take place." So in 6 verses, from 15 to 20, Kardam Muni will express his acceptance for this match. And in doing so, he will also convey the qualities that make this match appropriate from his perspective. Swayambhu Manu was speaking from the perspective of Devahuti. He did speak a little bit from the perspective of Kardama Muni, that I know you're looking to get married. I know that you have not committed to being a Naishik brahmachari. Um, uh, but primarily he was talking about uh, from the perspective of Devahuti. Kardama Muni will also speak from the perspective of Devahuti, but why he thinks that she is a suitable bride. So here he mentions 4 qualities that are uh, that are attractive to him, and because of which he considers this to be a good match. So he says that aprata, not promised to anyone else, which also means not previously married. So the first quality that he considers makes this a suitable match is that devotee is not attached to anyone else, whether through promise or through a relationship, that she is not attached to anyone else. The second is that she does not have any prior relationships or affections. He says adya. So adya means in the past. So in the present, she is not in a relationship. She does not have her heart committed to somebody else, nor has she done that in the past. Then he talks about it in the future. He says that that the girl is attached to the future groom. That point is not made in this verse, but in a subsequent verse. But he enunciates that as a quality. And in the fourth quality, he says this, that a marriage according to the Vedic system. So which means that it is in accordance with the scriptures. So it has the consent of the parents. It is compliant in terms of varnas, compliant in terms of the other factors that the scriptures state. So he's talking about the past, present, and future conception of the girl. That the girl is not attached to anybody in the past, is currently not attached to anyone, and in the future will be attached to the husband. And with all this, given the fact that it is sanctioned by the Vedas, he says that this becomes a suitable marriage. So Prabhupada says, therefore he said, yes, I shall accept your daughter under religious regulations of marriage. Later on, the purport says there are different kinds of marriage, and in one of the other following verses, Prabhupada talks about it. So this particular marriage is of the highest kind. And Prabhupada says that first-class marriage is held by inviting a suitable bridegroom for the daughter and giving her in charity, well-dressed and well-decorated with ornaments, along with a dowry according to the means of the father. Prabhupada will talk about these things, including from his perspective, the scriptural perspective, the need to give dowry. It's a little bit against contemporary social norms. Prabhupada talks about it from a Vedic perspective here. Verse 16. Kamasabhuya naradevate putrya samanaya vidau paritaha kayevate tanayam nadriyeta Swayeva kantya kshipatim ivashriyam. Let your daughter's desire for marriage, which is recognized in the Vedic scriptures, be fulfilled. Who would not accept her hand? She is so beautiful that by her bodily lustre alone, she excels the beauty of her ornaments. So the point that was made in the previous verse, that uh, the future desire of the girl to be attached to the groom is made in this verse. It's just collected over there for the sake of making the point over there. But Kardamuni is emphasizing that it's not that the parents are forcing Devahuti to marry, but the fact that she has a desire to marry, and specifically she has a desire to marry him. Because Swayambhu Manu said that after she had heard of him from Narad Muni, she has become exclusively attached to him. So that is establishing the third criteria, that the bride is uh, uh, in the frame of mind of being exclusively attached to her groom. Now he also begins to glorify Devahuti. So the glorification is that Prabhupada says that typically when a woman wears ornaments, then the luster of the woman increases. So she is decorated by ornaments. But in case of Devahuti, she is so beautiful that she actually makes the ornaments beautiful. That because the ornaments are on her, they look good, not the other way around. Prabhupada in the purport says that to give a daughter in charity to a suitable son-in-law is considered to be one of the most pious activities of a household. So Prabhupada notes, so generally when you give in charity, the person who's giving in charity has a higher position. Regardless of what the conventional position is, if I am receiving in charity from the other person, then the other person has a higher position. So Prabhupada is making the point over here that the father of the bride gives the daughter in charity, which places him at a higher position. In addition to giving the daughter in charity, it is also recommended by the scriptures to give, and Prabhupada says, ornaments, gold, furniture, and other household paraphernalia, which is dowry. And he says this type of marriage is prevalent amongst high-class Hindus even today, and is declared in the Shastras to confer great religious merit on the bride's father. Later on in the purport, Prabhupada says that there are 8 forms of marriage that are mentioned in Manusmriti. And we had a brief discussion on this in the beginning of the third canto, third chapter. We had a discussion that the 8 kind of marriages, the one that is being discussed over here is called Brahma Vivah, where everything is according to the scriptures. It is done completely for a religious purpose. Then Daiva Vivah is like Brahma Vivah, but slightly diluted. There is a little bit of dilution in terms of the match of the qualities, the attraction of the groom to the bride, etc. But essentially, it is like Brahma Vivah. Then in Arsha Vivah, the groom pays for the bride. So the parents of the bride, they receive some kind of compensation. And this kind is mostly performed in priestly families. Then Prajapati Vivaha is, is marriage in which the focus is really on lineage. Other considerations are not there. They may or may not be there, but the focus is really on lineage. That the production of appropriate progeny. Then the fifth is Asura Vivaha, where the bride is purchased from the family. So the only consideration is wealth. The boy's family gives money and takes the girl after the approval of the girl. So it's not against the wishes of the girl, but the primary consideration is paying the money. Gandharva Vivaha is basically when a man and a woman by mutual consent marry one another. So there is no deference to any other consideration. There is no formal marriage that takes place. There is no ceremonies. There is no chanting of mantras. There is no consent by the parents. Essentially, it's the union of a man and a woman by mutual consent. The seventh kind is Rakshas Vivaha, which is marriage by abduction. And even though it is marriage by abduction, it is actually done only by the consent of the girl. So we have so the marriage of Krishna and Rukmini is considered to be Rakshas Vivaha because Krishna abducted Rukmini from her family's house. Similarly, there are the marriage of Arjun with
Subhadra.
Thank you. With Subhadra, it's considered to be Rakshas Vivaha, but in all cases, the consent of the girl is there. And the eighth kind is the Pishach Vivaha, which essentially is rape. It's without the consent of the girl, by threatening her or by intoxicating her, when the man forces himself on her. So these are the 8 kinds of marriage Prabhupada mentions that are in the Manusmriti. And this particular marriage, because of the qualities of the groom and the bride and the families and the way it's being arranged, it's being glorified as the highest quality of Brahma Vivaha. Okay, verse 17. Yam harmya prashthe kvanadangrishodham vikridatem kanduka Viva Lakshim Vishwasauranyapatad Swad Vimana Vilokya Sammoha Vimudachetaha. I have heard that Vishwasu, the great Gandharva, his mind stupefied with infatuation, fell from his airplane after seeing your daughter playing with a ball on the roof of the palace. For she was indeed beautiful, with the tinkling ankle bells and her eyes moving to and fro. So Kardamuni is describing is an incident when Devahuti was on the roof by herself, playing with the ball, and the great Gandharva, so Vishwasu is the king of the Gandharvas, he was flying on the airplane. And Prabhupada talks in the purport that clearly this means that at those times, there were tall skyscrapers and there were airplanes. So one should not think that these are only products of modern technology. They have been there since ancient times. So when Vishwasu saw Devahuti, he was so struck by the beauty that he became bewildered and fell from the fell from the airplane. So Vishwanath Chakravarti comments on this, that the reason that Vishwasu fell was because of the offense of looking at her with lust. And because she was, her chastity is so powerful that he immediately got a reaction to that action. Because she is so pure, just looking at her with lust caused that person to fall unconscious. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says the offense is indicated by the word vilokya, which indicates she being seen by him. So Kardama Muni, he is he's using this, he's describing this incident to bring forth both the beauty of Devahuti and her purity also. So he's using the ornament of Vyatirekha. Vyatirekha means contrast. That she was so beautiful that it bewildered the person, and she was so chaste that he became stupefied. He became unconscious. Next verse, 18. Tam prarayatim lalana lalamam ashevita shri charne radrashtam vastam manor uchapada swasaram konanumanyeta buddho bhyatam. What wise man would not welcome her, the very ornament of womanhood, the beloved daughter of Swayambhavu Manu, and the sister of Utanpad. Those who have not worshipped the gracious feet of the goddess of fortune cannot even perceive her. Yet she has come of her own accord to seek my hand. So you can see that Kardama Muni, he is still upset about the transgression of the Gandharva king Vishwasu. So he is saying that those who have not worshipped Lakshmi cannot perceive her. So he is actually pointing to Vishwasu over here. That scoundrel, he dared look at her, but actually he fell because he has no good qualities. He has not received the favor of Lakshmi Devi, and that is why he could not perceive her. That even though he was looking at her, but he could not perceive her. Vishnu Chakravarti says that he was bewildered by the nature of the effulgence that was emanating from her. So he's condemning Vishwasu as a way to glorify Devahuti. And one may ask that is that all that you're looking for? That she's extraordinarily beautiful? He says no, and he puts two more aspects for consideration here. That she is the beloved daughter of Swayambhavu Manu and the sister of Utanpad. So now he's talking about her family lineage. That you cannot get a better pedigree. That your father is the son of Brahma, and your brother Utanpad, he is an emperor by his own right. He does not mention Priyavrata over here, because Priyavrata at this point of time, and this is in fourth canto. We'll discuss this a little bit more. But Priyavrata at this point of time had given up his family. So even though he was the elder brother, but he was so absorbed in the Lord that he refused to take on the the responsibilities of a king, and he had left his family, and he was focusing on his devotional service. So, because Priyavrata had left the family, Kardamuni does not include him, even though Swayambhu Manu had included. When he had spoken about the qualities of Devahuti, he had said that she is the sister of Priyavrata and Uttanpad. So he was speaking as a father, and Kardamuni is speaking more from a perspective of the society. That Priyavrata has left the house, so he's not part of the family, but she is the daughter of Manu and the sister of King Uttanpad. And then now he continues to speak about a chastity. That only when one has received the mercy of Lakshmi Devi can one perceive her. So Lakshmi Devi bestows fortune on those who are set in the scriptures, who are pious, who are free of sins. So in talking about the qualities of a groom, he's actually glorifying the quality of Devahuti. That she is so free of sins, pious, she has received the mercy of Lakshmi Devi. So she cannot even be perceived. And the example being our Vishwasu, that because he had not sufficiently received the mercy of Lakshmi Devi, he could not perceive her. And then he says that she has come to me on her own accord to seek my hand. So at this point, he's talking about the suitability of the match. So somebody might say that Vishwasu is the king of Gandharvas, and he could not perceive her. What about you? So the point that he's making is, I have worshipped Lord Vishnu, and I have also worshipped Lakshmi Devi, the consort of Lord Narayan, and therefore I can perceive her. I am a suitable match for her. So he's not really glorifying himself, but he's talking about the suitability of the match. He's glorifying the match, actually. That she is exalted, but I am also qualified. So this match is appropriate. Verse 19. Ato bhajishye samyena sadvim yavat tejo vibrayadatmano me ato dharman paramhamsya mukhyan shukla proktan bahumanya vihimsharan. Therefore, I shall accept this chaste girl as my wife, on the condition that after she bears semen from my body, I shall accept the life of devotional service accepted by the most perfected human beings. That process was described by Lord Vishnu. It is free from envy. So because of the conditions that have, because of the criteria that are being met, that have been enunciated by Kardam Muni, that have also been enunciated by Swayambhu Manu. So Kardam Muni says ataha, therefore. So therefore means that there is a conclusion to the line of reasoning that was developed. So the logical conclusion is that I shall accept this chaste girl as my wife. But Now he is also putting a condition from his own side. He's saying that after she bears progeny, I will leave her. So what will I do after leaving her? I will take sannyas. I will follow the life of devotional service accepted by the most perfected human beings. So he uses the word Atmano me teja. Atmano me teja, Prabhupada translates as the semen from my body. Teja is semen and Atmano is me. Vishnu Chakravarti says that it can also refer to the future appearance of Kapila Muni, wherein Tejo stands for Tejo is power of Atmano, of my worshipable Lord. So which means that after she has my worshipable Lord as her son. So same thing, slightly different nuance, that is predicting the appearance of Lord Kapila and saying that once she has Lord Kapila as her son, at that point, I will leave her. And the reason that I will leave her is not because I will be looking for another wife or I will be tired of her, but he's saying that I'm following the process that is given in the scriptures. He says Prashukla. So Shukla over here responds to Lord Vishnu. So Krishna is called Krishna because he's fair. I mean he's dark complexioned. Vishnu is called Shukla, or one of his names is Shukla, because Lord Vishnu is fair complexioned. So he says Prashukla, that this process has been actually directly told to me by Lord Vishnu. And the process is glorious. It is Avi Himsharan. There is no Himsa. Himsa means violence. So there is no violence. Or Ahimsharan means also there is no envy. So he's assuring Manu that my leaving is not going to put Devahuti in any anxiety. There's no violence or envy in this. It is a process that will be for the benefit of everybody. So Sambhu Manu might say that you're saying Prashukla, that some process has been given to you by Lord Vishnu. What is this process? Tell me more about it. So Kardam says, Dharmam Paramhamsya Mukhya. That this is the dharma of Paramhamsya Mukhya. So Paramhamsas are the most elevated. Paramhamsya Mukhyan is the most prominent of the Paramhamsas. And Dharmam, this is their duty. So this path of becoming a Paramhamsa, renouncing everything, and not only become a Paramhamsa, but Vishwanath Chakravarti says that Paramhamsya Mukhyan means become the most prominent of Paramhamsa, which essentially is those Paramhamsas that are exclusively focusing on worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service. This is Mukhyan Paramhamsya. That is the dharma that I am following. So you should also not be envious or angry with me for making this as a condition. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that, and he's commenting more on Paramhamsa, he said there are 4 stages of sannyas life. And he doesn't talk here, but in other purport he explains that once a person has taken sannyas, then he goes through 4 stages of advancements: Kutichak, Bahudak, Parivrakacharya, and Paramhamsa. And they're basically transitioning into renunciation. Kutichak is the person still builds a house, he lives in a house. Bahudak is many houses, he has no house. Parivrakacharya means that he does not even live in a particular place. He does not creep under the same tree consecutive days. And Paramhamsa is the highest stage of perfection, where the person is completely focused on devotional service. There. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes, in the same order as Kardam Muni, about 100 years ago, Thakur Bhakti Vinod also wanted to beget a child who could preach the philosophy and teachings of Lord Chaitanya to the fullest extent. So Prabhupada is making an important point over here that one might ask that if you want to become a Paramhamsa, then why do you even marry? Just be one. And of course, Kardam Muni had said that I want to marry because I have desires to marry. But Srila Prabhupada is looking at beyond his humility, saying that the real reason that he's marrying is to produce an offspring that will help others in their devotional service. And he's giving the example of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. That Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he was obviously a Grahastha, and I forget if he had 10 or 11 children, but he had a lot of children. And the reason that he was having children was not because of any material lust, but he wanted a child who could preach the philosophy and teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Prabhupada continues that by his prayers to the Lord, he had as his child Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, who at the present moment is preaching the philosophy of Lord Chaitanya throughout the entire world through his bona fide disciples. So Prabhupada is talking about his own preaching effort and that of his disciples right now as an extension of the empowerment of Bhaktisiddhanta. Because he makes this point that Bhaktisiddhanta is at the present moment preaching. He's not saying that I'm preaching or disciples are preaching. He's saying it is Bhaktisiddhanta who is preaching, and he's preaching through his nimit matras. He's preaching through his instruments. So we see this very deep sense of humility in Srila Prabhupada, of at one point being very fixed in conveying the position of a guru. So sometimes when Prabhupada would speak about the position of a guru, that how the disciples should surrender everything, guru is greater than God. And if you look at how the temple program is constructed, it begins with Guru Ashtakam, and then after that there is chanting, then there is Guru Puja, and so there's a lot of focus on Guru. And the reason Prabhupada put this emphasis on Guru is because that's the way that one can make spiritual advancements. Not because he was attached to his position that everybody should serve me or everybody should acknowledge me at all points, beginning from Mangalarti till the end of the day, but because that's the way. That's the way that a disciple can make progress, is through the position of a guru, and he's demonstrating that himself. That he's saying that my Guru Maharaj is continuing to preach right now through the empowerment that he has given me and my disciples. Okay. we'll do one more verse, and then after that we can stop for any discussion. Verse 20. Yato bhavad vishvam idam vichitram samsthasya yatra chavavistate prajapatinam patireshamayam param parmanam bhagavan anantah. The highest authority for me is the unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom this wonderful creation emanates, and in whom its sustenance and dissolution rest. He is the origin of all Prajapatis. The personality is meant to produce living entities in this world. So, based on the previous verse, where Kardam Muni says that after Devahuti has my child, I will leave her, Swambhu Manu might say that you are a Prajapati, that you are produced by Brahma for the sake of increasing the population of the universe. Furthermore, you have been ordered by your guru and father to specifically engage in this. So both from the perspective of your position and the instruction, you're supposed to procreate. That's the purpose of a Prajapati. So why are you only having one child? You should have unlimited number of children to comply with the orders of your guru and in accordance to your position. So Kardam Muni in this verse is refuting that implicit objection, saying that yes, you are right. That is the order of my father Brahma. But there is somebody who's above my father. He says, Paramam Bhagavan Anantaha. Paramanam Bhagavan Anantaha. So the highest, Param Paramanam Bhagavan Ananta. And right now, I am listening to an even higher authority, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the origin of Brahma, who is the actual creator of the universe. Not only is the creator, he is also the maintainer. And ultimately, he is the destroyer. So when he says he is the maintainer, he says that if he is ordering me to do, then he very well knows how to maintain the universe. If my creating unlimited number of progenies would help him in maintaining this universe, then he would not have given me this order. But the creator, the maintainer, has instructed me, and his instruction override that of Brahma. So one may question at this point that why is Kardam Muni trying to show that there is a conflict in the orders of Vishnu and Brahma? And a lot of this is very subtle nuances, because Kardam Muni is assuming a question spoken by Swambhu Manu, and is presenting an answer to that assumed question. And what we are doing is that we are saying that based on this answer to this assumed question, there seems to be an indication that there is a conflict in the orders of Vishnu and Brahma. Now, factually speaking, so let us assume that is true. So factually speaking, Krishna is actually achieving everything. So he is fulfilling the desire of Kardam to marry and have progeny. He is creating a situation for Kardama Muni to be purified by living in the Grahastha ashram. He is creating piety for Kardama Muni by him following the order of Brahma. And then ultimately, he is providing the highest benefit to Kardama Muni, which is an opportunity to go back to Godhead. So there is no contradiction between Lord Vishnu and Lord Brahma, because that's what Lord Brahma also wants. Lord Brahma does not want people to keep circulating in this universe. So it is said that when a person rises to the heavenly planets based on their piety, the devas are actually very upset. Radha Govind Maharaj in one of his lectures, he says that when the soul is rising to the heavenly planet because of their acquired piety, then the devas say that, oh my God, one more person is coming in to share our opulence. But when the same devas see a soul rising to the spiritual world, then they shower flowers, they glorify, they sing the prayers of the person. So in Kardama Muni's liberation, Brahma is actually going to be happiest. He's not going to be angry, saying that you should have produced 10,000 children. But he's going to be happy. But Krishna has expertly created a situation where everything is being satisfied. Only Krishna can do this. The desires of Kardama Muni, purification of Kardama Muni, fulfillment of the order of Brahma, the benefit of the coming generations of the universe by the appearance of Sankhya, the ultimate benefit of Kardama Muni. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport that marrying and begetting a child is considered to liquidate one's debt to the family in which one is born. And then he says there are many debts. And all these debts are liquidated when one engages in the service of the personality of Godhead. So he is referring in the purport to a verse that is spoken by the Navyogendras, by Karbhajan Muni to Maharaj Nimi. It appears in the 11th canto, 5th chapter. That one who takes shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, he is not indebted to demigods, sages, other living entities, relatives, friend, mankind, one's forefathers. So all those debts are automatically liquidated. Okay, let me pause here and see if we have any discussion.
Just a comment. I remember Maharaj was telling about Acharya Upasana. When he went to South India tour, he was in Ahobilam Narasingha temple. The priest of the Narasingha temple, Sri Vaishnava priest, was very much appreciating our sampradaya, where we follow Acharya Upasana to the highest level and to a perfect level. So he was very much appreciating that. So I was just sharing this. You were talking about the Guru, how Prabhupada established the prayers and the worship of Guru. So I was just, Maharaj's lecture I was thinking about it.
Thank you for sharing, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. As you mentioned, is to beget like pious children. I think it's important as well, because if there is no people that getting children, devotees, then this movement will not continue as well. It will stop, and that means there will be more demoniac people on earth than devotees.
So it's called making devotees the old-fashioned way. So there's one way to make devotees, which is by preaching, and then there is devotees. So the whole purpose of having a Garbhoda Samskar and taking the mercy of the Guru is to attract pious Krishna conscious souls, as you were rightly pointing out, and they help in carrying forward the legacy.
Thank you.
Haribol Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhu. Prabhuji, can you share a little bit more light on giving Kanyadanam, women giving in charity? Because sometimes I heard woman is not charity object, like something like that. Somebody's so. In,
It is a little. So I think we have to look at it from the Vedic perspective. The Vedas go out of the way to glorify the position of a woman, and it's if the marriage is done in the Vedic way, and Prabhupada actually will talk about this in one of the subsequent purports about the fact of the relationship of a woman at different stages of her life. At one stage, she and Prabhupada, I think, uses the word belongs. She belongs to the father. At the next stage, she belongs to the husband. Then she belongs to the son. The word charity is not meant to objectify the woman. It's not meant to say that I have some money in my pocket, take it for charity. It's not meant to objectify the woman. It is meant to glorify the position of the bride. So as I mentioned, that who do you give to in charity? Somebody who's lower than me, right? That's right. That's why if you have more money than me, then only you can give me in charity. Or if you have a bigger heart than I, then only you can give me in charity, right? Otherwise, how can you give me charity? So it's more meant to glorify the position, and factually it is so, because this is a different discussion that a lecture that I had heard, which was talking about the great charity of the father of the bride, that he invests his blood in the daughter. He brings her up as his own, makes sure that she's happy, takes care of her as the apple of his eye, and then in the blink of the eye, she's gone. So you can imagine the position of the father. So difficult to have somebody more charitable than that. Not only does he give her, he says take some money also along with that, right? Difficult to have somebody in that position of being more charitable than that. So current society, things have become objectified. People, different things, different social mores have come in. But understanding it from a Vedic perspective, that statement, it rings very, very true and clearly. Any other thoughts?
When you were talking about giving charity, then the dowry is part of the charity. That means the dowry should not be set by the boy parent. Whatever the girl can offer as charity, as you're saying, right word, is a gift. It's not like they need a car or they need a house or they need furniture. Whatever the parent of the girl can give us charity, this is what they have to accept.
Yeah, and Prabhupada talks about it. He said the dowry is given by the by the girl's father, according to his status and capability. So that's how it should be fixed. A lot of things have become convoluted over time, and the current dowry system is actually a cross-pollination from the Islamic system. There they have a slightly, I think there's some history to it, but a lot of things have devolved over time because of different reasons.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll continue to verse 21. Maitreya vacha Saugradhanvan Yadeva Bhabasai Asik Chatushnim Arvindanabam Diyo Pragnan Smita Shobitena Mukhena Chetu Lulabe Devahutaya. Maitreya said, O great warrior Vidur, the sage Kardam said this much only and then became silent, thinking of his worshipable Lord Vishnu, who has a lotus on his navel. As he silently smiled, his face captured the mind of Devahuti, who began to meditate upon the great sage. So in 7 verses from 21 to 27, Maitreya is going to describe the marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, after which Swayambhuva Manu will return to his kingdom of Baharismati. So he addresses Vidur as a great warrior. Vidur was so at this point he's addressing Vidur as a great warrior, not because Vidur had a lot of accolades in battle. We don't really have any record of Vidur going into battle and fighting, but he's still born in a Kshatriya family, and Maitreya is saying that you do not turn back from a battle. Now, the battle that Vidur did not turn back from was a battle for his moral convictions, a battle for his devotion to Krishna. That's the battle that he did not turn back from. So he's saying, just like you are a great warrior who does not turn back from a battle, Kardam Muni is also a great warrior who does not turn back from the path of dharma recommended by the Lord. So Maitreya is glorifying the acceptance of this alliance by Kardam Muni. He's glorifying Kardam Muni's resolve to follow through by pursuing the path of the Paramhamsa. So 2 battles that Kardam Muni is not turning back from. The first is entering into Grahastha life. Now, it may be difficult for us to understand, but for one who's as renounced and elevated as Kardam Muni, entering into Grahastha life is a battle. The 4 Kumars, they refused to enter that battle, saying, no, we are okay. Maharaj Priyavrata, for a long time, he resisted. No, I'm fine. So because it was his duty, because it was the instruction of his guru and father, he does not turn back from that battle. The second battle is after entering into Grahastha life, he is prepared to leave it. That's the second battle. That once you enter into Grahastha life, then you become conditioned to sense enjoyment. That you're allowed to live an opulent life, and we will see that Kardam and Devotee will live an extremely opulent life. You are allowed conjugal pleasures. So many concessions that are made. So person says, this is good. This works for me. So that battle also, Kardam Muni is saying right away that I will engage in that battle. I will not turn away from that battle also. So this is Maitreya's glorification of Kardama Muni. Then he is silently smiling. So Vishwanath Chakravarti says it could be understood in 2 ways. That because the mind of Kardam Muni was attracted to the face of Devahuti, he smiled. Or the mind of Kardam was attracted to the smiling face of Devahuti, indicating that Devahuti was happy at the acceptance of Kardam Muni of the relationship. And then he became silent after that. So Prabhupada writes that this is because he was fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. So one of the qualities of a devotee is that the person does not indulge in prajalpa. So it's not that after Kardam Muni said that and then he says that, did you check out Bindu Sarovar? Did you go out to this place and check that out? And how's everything else going? But he speaks as much as is needed. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita, 26 qualities of a devotee are given. One of the qualities, Kavi. So Kavi means expert, and Kavi also means the ability to succinctly present things. So Kardam Muni spoke as much was needed, and then he reverted to his devotional practice, which is Smaran. He was a yogi. He had spent 10,000 years meditating on Krishna, Lord Vishnu, and that was his normal condition. That when nothing else was happening, like for us, it's an achieved condition. That we say, okay, now we have to sit and do our chanting, or now we have to chant our Gayatri, or now we are in front of the deities, so we'll focus on the deities. But when the condition is mitigated, then our mind naturally goes back to other things, job or whatever else is there in the mind. But the Muni is in the opposite situation. That he spoke what was needed, and then his natural condition is that he turns his mind to Krishna. Prabhupada says that it appears that Kardam Muni was fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, and that is the quality of it. Vishnu Chakravarti also indicates from this that he says that from this it can be understood that Swambhavu Manu and his wife did not feel any regret that they had given their daughter to a renounced person. So personally, I'm not fully clear that how Chakravarti Pad has made this connection. But since he comments on this verse I'm sharing. Yeah. Verse 22. Sonya gyatva vyavasitam maheshaduhitam sputam tasmai gunaganadhyay dadau tulyam parahashitaha. After having unmistakably known the decision of the queen as well as that of Devahuti, the emperor most gladly gave his daughter to the sage, whose host of virtues was equaled by hers. So the verse gives us a glimpse into the workings of a Vedic family. That Swayambhavu Manu consulted with his wife and daughter, and unmistakably. So it's not that he said that. So I'm giving Devahuti in marriage to Kardamuni. You agree, right? And basically expecting her to say right. So unmistakably means that full giving them full independence of presenting their mind as it is. Any doubts, any concerns, not just from his wife, as well as that of Devahuti. And once he got their approval, then he proceeded to give his daughter to Kardamuni. And Devahuti is again glorified here, that whose host of virtues was equaled by hers. So both of them are very, very qualified. Tulyam. Tulyam means that they are equal. Verse 23. Shatrupa Maharajni Paribaran Mahadana Dampatya Prayadat Pritya Bhushava Shaparichada. Emperor Shatrupa lovingly gave most valuable presents suitable for the occasion, such as jewelry, clothes, and household articles in dowry to the bride and the bridegroom. Prabhupada here once again comments on the fact that the process of giving one's daughter in charity with a dowry is still current in India. The gifts are given according to the position of the father of the bride. So as Sarang Prabhu is making this point, that they're not given according to the demands of the groom, but according to the desire of the father. And Prabhupada says that the dowry is a gift given to the daughter by the father to show goodwill, and it is compulsory. In rare cases where the father is unable to give dowry, it is enjoined that he must give at least a fruit and a flower. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, God can also be pleased even by a fruit and a flower. When there is financial inability and no question of accumulating a dowry by another means, one can give a fruit and a flower for the satisfaction of the bridegroom. So same point, that one gives according to one's mean and desires. Verse 24. Pratam tuhi taram samrat sadrakshaya gata vyataha upaguya chabahubhayam Otkanthayon matitatasyaha. Thus, relieved of his responsibility by handing over his daughter to a suitable man, Swayambhavu Manu, his mind agitated by feelings of separation, embraced his affectionate daughter with both his arms. So this verse talks about the contradictory emotions in a father. So there is relief, and the relief is that there is a suitable man that has been given to the daughter according to the Vedic principles, with the consonance of qualities. So because of that, there is relief and there is agitation, and the agitation is because of the feeling of imminent separation. Verse 25. Ashnovam stadviraham munchan ba sakalamoho ashinchadam bhavatseti netrude duhitaha shikaha. The emperor was unable to bear the separation of his daughter. Therefore, tears poured from his eyes again and again, drenching his daughter's head, as he cried, "My dear mother, my dear daughter." So in the previous verse, we see that out of relief and sorrow, Swayambhu Manu has embraced his daughter. And now we see that there are tears that are pouring from his eyes that are drenching the head of the daughter. And he addresses his daughter as Amba. Amba is my mother, and Duhuti. So, I'm sorry, Vatsa. He says Amba Vatsa. So Prabhupada says that in a cultured family, it is a woman is also addressed as mother out of in affection. And then Prabhupada writes over here in the purport that according to Manu Samhita, a woman is never independent. She must remain the property of the father while she is not married. She must remain the property of the husband until she is elderly and has grown up of her own. In old age, when the husband has taken sannyas and left home, she remains the property of the sons. A woman is always dependent either upon the father, husband, or elderly son. This will be exhibited in the life of Devahuti. Devahuti's father handed over responsibility for her to the husband, Kardama Muni. And in the same way, Kardama Muni also left home, giving the responsibility to his son, Kapiladev. This narration will describe these events one after another. Okay. Verse 26 and 27. Amantriya tamuni varam anugyata sahanugaha pratashte ratham maruya sabharya swapuram nripaha ubayor rishi kulyaya saraswatya surodasaha Rishinamupa Shantana Pashanashram Sampadaha. After asking and obtaining the great sage's permission to leave, the monarch mounted his chariot with his wife and started for his capital, followed by his retinue. Along the way, they saw the prosperity of the tranquil seers, beautiful hermitages on both the charming banks of Saraswati, the river so agreeable to saintly persons. So, not much is described of the marriage, but based on the sequence of events, it appears that Swayambhu Manu had come to the ashram of Kardama Muni fully prepared for celebrating the marriage. So once the Kardama Muni had consented, Devahuti had agreed, the marriage ceremony was performed. And we see that Shatrupa had given a lot of items in charity. The marriage was performed then and there, and now Swayambhuva Manu is returning back to his own kingdom. So the rest of the chapter will actually describe the journey of Swayambhuva Manu, essentially describing the glories of his kingdom. So Prabhupada says that the cities in the ancient time were called Rishikulas, where great saintly persons resided. In India, there are still many significant, magnificent places of spiritual understanding. There are many rishis and saintly people living in nice cottages on the banks of the Ganges and Yamuna for the purpose of spiritual cultivation. While passing through the Rishikulas, the king and his party were very much satisfied with the beauty of the cottages and hermitages. It is stated here, Pashyana Ashrama Sampadaha. The great sages had no skyscrapers, but the heritages were so beautiful that the king was very pleased at the sight. Verse 28. Tam ayantam abhipretya brahmavartat prajapatim gita samstuti vaditre pratyodyo paraharshitaha. Overjoyed to know of his arrival, his subjects came forth from Brahmavarta to greet the returning Lord with songs, prayers, and musical instruments. So these 12 verses will describe the wonderful rule of Swayambhuva Manu, his kingdom, his relationship with his citizens. So it was part of the demonstration of affection that when the king came back, then the citizens would be there to greet him. So that's why we have this large doors, dwars in cities, because when the king would come, the doors are really not meant to keep invaders out, because they're mostly ceremonial doors. They were not surrounded by walls, etc. But that was the purpose of the doors, that they were the places where the citizens would congregate, and when the king would come, they would enter through one of these ceremonial doors, and in different way the citizens would express their happiness. They would shower auspicious things. The musicians would play music. The Brahmins would give blessings. So Prabhupada in the purport says that we see that when Krishna returns to Dwarka. And of course, there is additional sweetness over there because Krishna is the personality of Godhead and is returning to his devotees. But you see that you see that thing in play also. So here, similarly, the citizens of Barismati, which is the capital of Brahmavarta, they came nicely dressed, happy, eager to welcome their emperor back. Verse 29 and 30. Barismati nam puri sarva sampat samanvita nyaptanyat romani yagya sangam vidunvataha kushakashasta evasham shashvadharita varchashaha rishyo yahi prabhavaya yagyagnan yagyam mijare. The city of Barismati, rich in all kinds of wealth, was so called because Lord Vishnu's hair dropped there from his body when he manifested himself as Lord Bor. As he shook his body, this very hair fell and turned into blades of evergreen kusha grass and kasha, another kind of grass used for mats, by means of which the sages worshipped Lord Vishnu after defeating the demons who had interfered with the performance of sacrifices. So the word Barismati actually means that a place that is filled with kushagrash, and it is linked to the pastime of Lord Varaha Dev. Next verse, 31. Kushakashmayam barhi astriya bhagavan manuhu ayajadya purusham labdasthanam yato bhuvam. Manu spread a seat of Kusha and Kasha and worshipped the Lord, the personality of Godhead, by whose grace he had obtained the rule of the terrestrial globe. Prabhupada mentions that from the word Manu comes the Sanskrit word Manushya and also the English word man. So Manu is the original person, and he talks about his relationship with the Lord. That because of his devotion to the Lord reciprocated by giving him all this opulence and power. Verse 32. Barismatim nam vibhuhu yam nirvishya samavasa tasyam pravishto bhavanam tapatraya vinashanam. Having entered the city of Barismati, in which he had previously lived, Manu entered his palace, which was filled with an atmosphere that eradicated the three miseries of material existence. So, this verse is describing the glories of Barismati. So, Swayambhavu Manu had entered the city of Barismati, and now he enters his own palace, which is free of the Tapatraya. Tap means the burning. Traya is the threefold miseries. Why is it free of the threefold miseries? That will be explained in the subsequent verses. Verse 33. Shabharya sabrajah kama bhuvje anya virodataha sangiyaman satkirti shastrabhi suragayakihi pratyusheshvanubaddena hridashanvan hare kataha. Emperor Swayambhavu Manu enjoyed life with his wife and subjects and fulfilled his desires without being disturbed by unwanted principles contrary to the process of religion. Celestial musicians and their wives sang in chorus, and the pure reputation of the emperor. And early in the morning, every day, he would listen to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a loving heart. So this is why it was free from the Tapatraya. So what was doing the Tapatraya Vinashan? These things were doing. That he was living life piously. So the first part of it was the piety. That he enjoyed life with his wife without being disturbed by the principles contrary to the process of religion. He was following the process of dharma, and he was following the process of swadharma. So in addition to that, the worship of the Supreme Personality of the Godhead was happening all the time. So because of him following the process of both dharma and swadharma, the tapatrayo vinashati, that the modes of material nature became ineffective. Verse 34. Nishnatmam nishatam yogamayasu munim swayambhuvam manum Yadabram mishitam bhoga nashe kur bhagavat param. Thus, Swayambhu Manu was a saintly king. Although absorbed in material happiness, he was not dragged to the lowest grade of life, for he always enjoyed his material happiness in a Krishna conscious atmosphere. So the verse again speaks about the mood of a devotee. That the mood of a devotee is not to renounce everything whimsically. So he says, although absorbed in material happiness, and we can see he was living in great opulence, but he enjoyed it in a spiritual way. So thereby following both the principles of dharma and bhakti. Next verse 35. Ayat yamas tasyasan yamah swantrayapanaha shanvato dhyayato vishnu kurvato bruhuvata kataha. Consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life consisting of a manvantra era was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. So this verse also talks about the Devi Varnashram. That earlier on, Sutta Goswami, I think it's the sages actually who say that the rising and the setting of the sun, it's reducing everyone's life, but those who are worshipping the Lord. And Swayambhu Manu is described in the same position. He has a very long life. Right? One mantra is 71 Chaturyugas. It's a very, very long life, hundreds of millions of years. And he's obviously living it in opulence. But it is said that he did not live in vain. Why? Because of Shravana Kirtana Smarana Bandhan. That he's hearing, contemplating, writing down and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. Verse 37. Sa evam swantaram ninye yuganameka saptatim vasudeva prasangena paribhuta gati trayaha. He passed this time which lasted 71 cycles of the 4 ages, 71 by 4.32 million years, always thinking of Vasudeva and always engaged in matters regarding Vasudeva. Thus he transcended the 3 destinations. So the 3 destinations are under the controls of the 3 modes of material nature. Person in the mode of goodness goes to the heavenly planets, the mode of passion stays in the middle planets, and the mode of ignorance falls to the lower planets, and or lower form of life. So one of the 2. Swayambhu Manu did not achieve the results of any of the modes of material nature, because he had transcended them, and he transcended them because always thinking of Vasudeva and always engaged in matters regarding Vasudeva. So glorification of devotion. I wanted to finish this chapter. I have only a couple of verses, so if you can just stay for a few more minutes, we can finish the chapter. Verse 37. Shariramanastavya vayase chamanushaha bhautikasche katham klesha bhadante harisamshrayam. Therefore, O Vidur, how can persons completely under the shelter of Lord Krishna and devotional service be put into miseries pertaining to the body, the mind, nature, and other men and living creatures? So this is the reason why Maitreya Muni was describing the conduct and goal and destination of Swayambhavu Manu. That because he was living in this way, he was able to transcend the modes. So the understanding is that if one lives their life modeled after the life of Swayambhavu Manu, which is completely under the shelter of Lord Krishna and devotional service, then how can such a person be ever put in any kind of miseries pertaining to the body, mind, nature? So this is the adhyatmic, adhidevik, adhibautik. So these all kleshas, they disappear by the influence of bhakti. So this is why Maitreya has been speaking about it. Okay, last two verses. Ya prashto munvi praha dharma na navedan chuban nrinam varna shramam cha sarvabhuta hita sada. In reply to questions asked by certain sages, he, Swayambhavu Manu, out of compassion for all living entities, taught the diverse sacred duties of men in general and the different varnas and ashrams. So this is talking about the recording of Manu Smriti by Swayambhavu Manu, which is essentially a conversation between Swayambhavu Manu and different sages. And in this, he talks with a lot of details about how to live in the different varnas and ashrams, the duties, the do's and the don'ts. Verse 39. Etata dirajasya manoscharitam adbhutam varnitam varananiyasya tad apatayo dayan shunu. I've spoken to you of the wonderful character of Swayambhavu Manu, the original king, whose reputation is worthy of description. Please hear as I speak of the flourishing of his daughter, Devahuti. Now, Maitreya spoke about Kardam Muni also, but here he is specifically talking about the concluding part of the chapter. And he refers to it because he is motivating Vidur, and Vidur is already motivated, is motivating us to model our life in the footsteps of the great king. And he now gives a preview into what he will speak next, which is essentially the married life of Kardam Muni and Devahuti. So that's the end of this chapter. My apologies for going over time, but I wanted to finish it. Any questions, comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu, in text 35, the translation says writing, but just wanted to confirm, when we go through the word to word, it just says acting, that word kurvataha.
Which line is it? The second line?
35th. Yeah, in the end it says, hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Like in that, the Sanskrit, it says kurvataha, acting. Hey Govinda, can you hold on a minute? I didn't see writing there in the Sanskrit.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, sorry, don't know Sanskrit. So
Okay.
sometimes contextually, sometimes the word to word becomes different contextually, but yeah, don't know the specific answer.
Okay. So Prabhu, I also have another question, if I can ask, or I can.
No, go ahead, ask.
So I guess I wanted to hear from you about, the how it is spoken of that a woman is the property of the father, the husband, and the son at different stages of life. Could you speak a little bit to that? Because I remember, some years ago when we were in college, a friend of mine, she was put off by this presentation in our Vedic texts, and she never came back to it. Somehow, even though I had that reservation too, somehow I was able to surmount that and see the greater picture that Prabhupada's books presents, and also that our Shastras present. So could you speak to that, please? Like, how can, if I've had some people come to me and ask me not the same but similar questions.
So the position of I suspect that you can speak about it better than I can, because as you mentioned that you obviously have contemplated this topic. You have read and internalized it, and then, as you say, that you have gone beyond it. My understanding is that in the scriptures, the position is not talked about in terms of superiority or inferiority, but it's talked in terms of difference. And the difference in certain cases manifests as superiority versus inferiority, and which is a reflection of the natural way of things, that a woman's body is constructed differently. A man cannot have a child. Only a woman can have a child. Even to this day, despite everything that they have about equality of men and women, they have different. So in the Olympics, they have different races. Men run separately, women run separately, because if they were same, then there would be no women who would win. So it's acknowledgement to the fact that the physiognomy of the woman is different from that of the man. There's an acknowledgement to the fact that the psychology of a woman is different from that of the man. These differences manifest in some cases where the man is dependent on the woman, and we will see that in the next chapter. And Prabhupada made this point all the time, that it's the woman that gives the shelter to the man so that he can make spiritual advancements. So the man is dependent on the woman in some cases, and some cases the woman is dependent on the man for physical protection, for taking care of the more gross needs, like protection from enemies and providing sustenance. So somehow over time we are focusing on those differences more so than the areas where the women have a superior position. Those things have been mitigated. How many women do you see who are stalking men? I mean, never do you see. Why? Because they're psychologically more together. Their minds are more. Now, undoubtedly, there are situations where there is unrequited love or there is frustrations at both ends, but because the man or men are not able to handle it properly, it results in violence. It results in abnormal behavior. It does not do so happen in women. It reflects to their superior psychological strength. So that's my short take. It's obviously a big subject, but based on a conversation that I had with the Prabhupada disciple on this topic, because it would trouble me also and Prabhupada does speak strongly about, and this chapter he does speak very clearly in the purport that the woman is the property of the father and the property of the husband and property of the son. I would read the property as responsibility, and that is the responsibility of the father and the husband and the son. Or I would read the property as I own something valuable, and therefore it behooves me to take proper care of it. So, as I said, it's a fairly it's a fairly large topic and obviously contentious. What you have said, I've also seen of women and men both turning away from this because of the supposed what's the right word, minimizing the position of women. But I, at least personally, I'm giving my personal view, that I personally think that it is not minimizing, it is just distinguishing the positions of relative strengths and weaknesses in both men and women.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Any thoughts from your end, Varshana, that you would like to share?
No, I think you covered it very well, Prabhu. That's why I wanted to hear from you. Thank you.
Achyuta, any thoughts from your end?
No, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll end here. Next week we will start with chapter 23. Panchakalpatarubhayascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anant Koti Vaishnavrind ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaur Premanand. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.